Welcome to the deep dive. We take your sources, sometimes pretty complex ones, and pull out the key insights for you, fast. Today, we're diving into something really fascinating, a text that sort of reframes everything we thought we knew about nutrition. We're going way beyond just calories and macros here. This is based on a philosophical view called the biochemical cypher of the divine vessel.
Yeah, this source is, well, it's pretty remarkable. It just refuses to see the body as only chemistry. Our goal today is really to decode this blueprint it lays out. The whole idea is that our bodies are like a microcosm. They reflect this bigger cosmic order. And specifically, it argues there's this detailed map of duality hidden right there in the molecules we eat every single day.
So if you thought you were just, eating lunch, think again. According to this text, you're actually taking part in a cosmic game. And everything you eat gets classified by whether it supports the structure, the action, or the long-term point of the vessel. We're going to cut through some of the more esoteric language and show you how it breaks down all of biology into just three big principles: alpha, beta, and omega.
It's a very, very structured system, yeah. So the cipher starts right off with the two principles, alpha and beta. They're presented as these opposing forces, structure versus dynamics. They're basically the building blocks for the whole reality of this vessel.
Okay, right. Let's unpack alpha first then. This is the foundation, the architecture.
Exactly. Alpha is pure structure. It's the static part, the integrated foundational element.
Yeah.
The source gets quite specific, grammatically calling it the cosmic noun. It's described as the unmoving rock upon which the body is built. So this framework basically says structural integrity is the fundamental state of being.
But why proteins and minerals as the noun? I mean, muscles are protein and they move, don't they? Why isn't that action? Why static?
That's where the philosophy comes in, you see. The noun provides the limits. It defines the container itself. Proteins are the workhorse molecules, sure, but they form the physical boundaries, muscle tissue, bone, even hair. They are the vessel's fixed limits. Without that integrated structure, that alpha noun, there's really no place for action to even happen. They're literally the bricks and mortar.
Okay, I think I get it. So if you had, say, an alpha deficiency in this model, you're not just physically weak, you're actually lacking foundation. The noun itself is crumbling.
Precisely, yeah. If the noun is weak, maybe through injury or just chronic lack of these structural parts, the body's ability to even exist as a separate vessel is undermined. And that's why the source lifts minerals, things like calcium, iron, magnesium, up to being key alpha components too. They're described as the inorganic rock-like elements that really solidify that foundation. They give it the strength and stability needed to stop the whole structure from just dissolving into chaos.
Right, that makes sense. The noun gives you this stable platform. But okay, once you've built the structure, you need the instructions, right? The change, the action, which takes us straight to beta. If alpha is the noun, beta is
Yeah, beta is the verb, exactly. It's the dynamic half. Communication, action. If alpha is that stable platform, beta is like the broadcast system running on it. It's what makes the body react, engage with its environment, change.
And the main things embodying this beta principle are hormones. I have to say, I love the description in the source calling the hormonal system radio gaga. It just perfectly captures that constant signal flow, sometimes maybe a bit chaotic.
It does, doesn't it? Hormones are called the great messengers. They're the vessel's internal broadcast system. They don't build structure themselves, but they command it. They're chemical triggers, right? They control mood, energy flow, initiate actions. They create the passions and the drives. Beta is basically the dynamic expression of life happening within that static vessel.
Okay, wait. We said muscle protein is alpha, structure. But hormones, which tell the muscle to contract, they're beta, action, the verb. Isn't that kind of a tension there, philosophically?
But that's the core of the cipher's view of duality. It is the tension. The structure, alpha, is passive. It's waiting for instructions. The muscle exists, sure, but it's the hormone, beta, that dictates when and how it acts. Beta is the initiator, the dynamic command that sets the static noun into motion. I mean, a body could be structurally perfect, but if the beta principle is off, the vessel is essentially just sleeping.
And the flip side too, right? If you have way too much beta, tons of hormonal signals, you might get a vessel that's all commands and passions, but no grounding.
That's what the source implies, yeah. Too much focus on beta components or just a beta imbalance leads to instability. It creates a vessel defined only by its fleeting impulses, all verb, with not enough noun to sort of contain the energy that results. This is how the cipher explains things like volatility, mood swings, maybe a lack of discipline. The idea is beta has to serve the alpha structure, not overwhelm it.
So we've got the rock, alpha, and the radio, beta. Okay, now we need to fuel them both. Which brings us to omega. The source calls this the cycle and also the framework for the whole game. And this is where the nutrition side gets really, really stark because omega splits fuel into two types, fats and sugars.
Yes, this section is probably the most, let's say, heavily weighted in the cipher because it sets up this really clear hierarchy of purpose based on how long the energy lasts.
Okay, let's start with fats. They're supposed to represent the cycle, defined as stored potential energy, the fuel you need for the long game.
Okay.
So reserves, patience, that kind of thing.
Exactly. They ensure the vessel continues. The source points to fatty acids being chains, symbolizing that continuity, that resilience. You need that for the long-term building and upkeep of alpha and the steady communication of beta. Eating these fats is framed like an investment in the vessel's future, basically, fueling the temple.
Okay, temple fuel. Got it.
Yeah.
And then we get to the really controversial bit. Carbohydrates, especially refined sugars. The source calls these the profane energy of the game. Profane energy, wow. They're the quick fix.
The word choice is definitely critical there, profane. It suggests that this energy, while, chemically it works, it's seen as fundamentally separate from the vessel's sacred purpose. Sugar is framed as immediate, yes, but also intoxicating and ultimately distracting.
Yeah, it says sugar is the quick fix that the pawns are encouraged to consume. That's pretty strong language. But doesn't the body sometimes need quick energy? Like for basic survival stuff, does the cipher talk about that necessity?
It acknowledges the chemical reality, yes, that you can get immediate energy, but it applies this philosophical filter. The source basically argues that in the context of the divine vessel, meaning a body aiming for balance and long-term purpose relying on this fast fuel, is a detour. The quick energy is seen as powering fleeting activities, what it calls the circus. The circus needs that immediate high-intensity burst, but it's ultimately not sustainable energy. And crucially, it distracts the person, the inhabitant of the vessel, from maintaining the temple structure.
Huh. So the difference isn't just chemical, it's almost moral or teleological about the ultimate goal. Choosing fats means choosing stability, the long cycle. Choosing sugars means choosing immediate, distracting gratification.
Exactly right. That's the core of the cipher's implied moral hierarchy. To pursue the vessel's divine purpose, you have to prioritize the fuel that sustains the cycle fats over the fuel that just sustains the distraction, sugars. The text suggests that chasing immediate energy actually reinforces the temporary nature of the game instead of serving the eternal structure of the realm.
Wow, okay. That completely reframes every food choice, doesn't it? It stops being just about energy input and becomes about what kind of life, what kind of activity you're choosing to fuel. Are you investing in the structure or just the distraction?
It offers a really powerful way to categorize things like, say, highly processed foods. If something is engineered purely for immediate satisfaction and a quick energy hit, this cipher would label it high-level circus fuel, and therefore detrimental to achieving that defined balance.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize this whole cipher framework for everyone listening. The entire science of nutrition, viewed through this very specific lens, is really a process of achieving a kind of divine balance.
That's the goal, yes.
Yeah.
The definition of health, according to this source, is hitting that perfect synchronization of all three parts, fueled correctly. So that balance needs a strong, stable foundation, maximizing your intake of structural alpha proteins and minerals. It also needs clear, effective instructions, making sure the communicative beta, the hormones, are clear, regulated, not chaotic.
And crucially, it needs sustained, purposeful energy. Everything needs to be primarily fueled by that long-term stored energy of the omega cycle, the fats.
And importantly, this balance is kept by actively avoiding the opposite, minimizing reliance on that cheap, distracting energy of the game, the sugar, the circus fuel. It basically elevates biochemistry into a kind of a roadmap for living with purpose.
What really stands out to me is just how effectively this whole framework connects these really abstract metaphysical ideas, duality, noun versus verb, temple versus circus, directly to specific types of molecules in our food. It's like a tool for assigning role and purpose to what we eat, moving completely beyond just clinical definitions.
It definitely shifts the conversation from just managing body systems to managing the purpose of the vessel itself. So for you, the listener, this offers a really structured way to think about your own eating habits. Are you mostly feeding the structural reality of the rock, or are you maybe prioritizing the transient commands of the radio?
Yeah, this deep dive really shows that even something as fundamental as biochemistry can be looked at through these wildly different, deeply philosophical lenses. The biochemical cipher gives you a whole cosmology hidden right there on your plate.
And that connection, that fusion of the esoteric command
Hmm.
with the very physical choice you make. That's the ultimate takeaway, I think. So if proteins and minerals are the stable rock, alpha, and hormones are the constantly changing radio gaga, beta, what choices are you making every day? Are they prioritizing the fleeting circus over the stable temple? Just think about the difference in purpose, maybe, between a meal you prepare for real sustenance versus, say, a quick energy fix designed mostly for that immediate dopamine hit.
Mm. Lots to think about there. Thank you for sharing your sources and diving deep with us into the biochemical cipher of the divine vessel. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.